airline that has been massively impacted in the last few months is the regional airline CityJet, and the CEO of CityJet, Pat Byrne, is now on the line. Pat, good morning.
Morning, Pat.
How have you been impacted?
Pretty massively. We basically had to put the company into examinership, and that was quite a painful process for our staff and for our stakeholders, our creditors, and suppliers and so on. It was a very, very difficult process, and essentially we went into COVID with almost 1,200 people, and we came out with about 420 people. We had to shut a number of bases in Europe. So essentially we lost 700 people. We dropped from 34 aircraft down to 20. So it's been an extremely painful process.
Now, I don't know how much flying you're doing at the moment. How many of your aircraft are in the air every day?
9. We have 9 in the air in Scandinavia, out of our base in Copenhagen. That it changes week to week because we depend on, we're flying for our customer there, SAS, and it depends on their market, and it depends on what countries remain open, and you know, they open and close. It varies quite a lot because this paralysis has gone right across Europe. It's quite an incredible paralysis that's actually going on.
Pat, what would help? I mean, what kind of policies? Obviously, if there was an injection of cash, that would be very welcome, but that's probably not going to happen. So what measures could the government ordain that would make flying possible and safe?
Well, the one word I want to hear or talk about is leadership, because we don't have any. And that's what we need. So the measures that I believe are required is a pragmatic and business-like approach to testing. And I think antigen testing has to come in. It's a 15-minute result. It determines whether a person's at an infectious level or not. It costs about €5 per unit. And we need something. We need rapid testing, antigen testing at airports pre-departure. And if that's applied across Europe...
Just let me talk you through this. This would be, I arrive, it's not doing one 3 days before. I arrive at the airport, and instead of maybe spending my money in duty-free, I go through a zone where I do an antigen test, and 15 minutes later they have the result, and they say, Mr. Kenny, you're free to go. That kind of thing.
Correct. And if you're compelled to do one at the other end, do one. It's another £5 and another 15 minutes. But that's a pragmatic approach, I believe. The airline industry has proven itself over generations to be the most compliant and the most safety-conscious industry of all industries. We're extremely good at looking after people and taking care of people. You couldn't be in a safer environment than on an airplane with a HEPA filtration system. And with proper controls at airports and common sense approaches and applying all of the criteria that we all know about. I'm not going to sound like a COVID advertisement. Again, we all know what we have to do. Of course we can make flying safe. And the missing piece is a certification that I'm not carrying infection. And that can be easily remedied. And I do not know why we've become an outlier in aviation. Ireland used to be a pioneer and a leader of aviation. 140,000 people work in aviation in this country. We're the capital of aircraft leasing and finance. But the way that this government has actually turned its back and ignored, I agree with everything Eddie Wilson said, by the way, the way the government has turned its back on an industry that's been very good to this economy and is actually essential for this economy as an island nation and a very mixed economy, and all of the inward investment that we depend on so heavily. It is absolutely unfathomable that the government has just literally turned its back on aviation and has not facilitated, in fact has probably blocked initiatives that the DAA and airlines are trying to take to get the show back on the road. And we should be out there in Europe leading the way in setting up corridors and channels and countries that we can organise safe travel to and from.
Look, Pat, thank you very much for joining us. That's the CEO of CityJet, Pat Byrne.